as sort of a thanks for the interview and pushing along the signed item thing with Shannon McRandall, she agreed to sign some other stuff that I had still sitting around that I sent off to her, including the Star Wars Insider that revealed her as Mara Jade. It says there, Nathan, thank you, may the Force be with you, September 11, 2010. The date's just a coincidence here. Shannon McRandall, a.k.a. or as Mara Jade. Also, probably the biggest one for me was when I got the opportunity to work on the Essential Atlas. There's a huge creative team in that. I wound up producing things like the date for Return of the Jedi, in-universe dates for Events of the Thrawn campaign, the capture of Coruscant by Rogue Squadron, all that kind of stuff. And eventually, they had the Atlas with them at a big convention. I want to say it was Celebration 4, maybe? I honestly forget off the top of my head. But the whole creative team was there to promote it, so when they were there, they all signed copies and sent it as a thank you to me and to Eddie Vanderheiden, who also helped with some of the dates for it, for those in-universe maps. In that case, it's definitely a sentimental item for me. You get it signed there by Chris Travas, Chris Reef. Couldn't have done it without you, Dan Wallace. And to Nathan, thanks for all your awesome work. We did it, Jason Fry, with a little arrow saying you are here. Very, very cool, kind of sentimental item because, boy, was that a lot of work, and it was really cool to be able to contribute things behind the scenes, like the date for Return of the Jedi, the date that Jason and Jaina Solo were born, stuff like that was really kind of cool and something that built on my previous timeline experience. Another thing, sort of by way of saying we did it or congratulations, when I was hired on to write for Star Wars Tales, to write Equals and Opposites, that eventually was released back in 2004, Jeremy Barlow wanted to send a thank you. And he surprised me with something that I really didn't know, I don't think, at the time. Or I knew it, but it really hadn't hit home, I guess, quite as much. And that is, he sent me a copy of his, Jeremy Barlow's, his first Star Wars comic story. He's still writing them today. It says Star Wars Empire number 13. This is What Sin Loyalty. And right there, signed, it says, Nathan, remember the Death Star, Jeremy Barlow. I didn't expect it. He just sent it with a package of stuff that he was sending to me, and it happened to be in there. Now, what makes this one special to me especially is it features that great battle sequence as the Battle of Yavin is going on. It's a great battle sequence on the Death Star, but it features this character here. It's a character by the name of Chrono Relt. Chrono Relt was named after me, without me knowing it at the time. I didn't know it until afterwards. It's a character that was named in the script, not in the comic, and he later confirmed it on message boards and stuff of where the name came from and what the character's name was. The character's name is Chrono Relt. Chrono with a K, based on Chrono Radio, my original podcast, and Relt being the last four letters of Butler in reverse. R-E-L-T instead of T-L-E-R. Very cool. I keep this in my binder with all of my stuff from creating Equals and Opposites back in the day. So, not exactly something I could recommend, because a very weird way of going about winding up with signed materials. If you get the opportunity, you'll find these people are very, very good-natured, especially when you speak directly to the creative personalities, whether it's Facebook or otherwise. Going through agents, not as easy. I also find that that's why a lot of times authors and people like Shannon McRandall, who are models and such, are much easier to get along with, to speak to, and to get things signed by than, say, movie stars or cartoon series voice actors and such, because there's always the agents in the way, you're always looking at Lucasfilm with an ongoing project and that sort of thing. It's much easier to approach EU creators than it is film stars. And to be honest with you, to me, there's so many people out there that collect stuff from film stars, it's not really unique enough for me. I prefer to collect signed EU stuff. That's where I'm invested time-wise with the Star Wars Timeline Gold and so forth in the Star Wars saga, and that's where there's a lot of names that I really recognize, people that I've interviewed before. I feel like I have more of a connection with that side of it than, say, the film actors, who are Hollywood types, so to speak. So, to me, EU collecting is a better way to do it, and most of them are great, great people. And those that I wouldn't include in that, it's not that they're bad people, it's just maybe they're not as approachable as others. But a great community of people have written for the Star Wars universe, most of whom are very approachable and kind. One last word of advice, then I'll quickly show you where it is that I tend to sign things. If you're ever going to get anything signed from me, which is still kind of a surreal type of feeling, but say that you do, maybe. then I'll show you where that takes place. The other word of caution is make sure that whatever you get signed, it's what you want to get signed. A thing about me was that I got things signed as I was able to. If I met somebody at a convention, I got the stuff signed because I knew they were going to be there. I didn't always have the actual item I would have preferred more than anything else. For example, as I mentioned, with Alan Dean Foster, I couldn't get the hardback first edition book club edition signed by Alan Dean Foster of A New Hope because I didn't have it at the time. Instead, when it came to A New Hope, what I got signed was the Star Wars Trilogy Omnibus that he just signed it right here next to his name. That's not a very prestigious way to do it because there's 3 authors in here and only one of them has signed it. Later, much later, even after meeting Anthony Forrest, I finally got a first edition paperback, first edition paperback of A New Hope. It's not signed by anybody. Of all my copies of A New Hope, this is the one that isn't signed by anybody and the one that I think will be most special to get signed because it was the first Star Wars novel of any kind. So if you are going to get something signed and you know in advance you'll have the opportunity, if there's some special version of the signed item that you want, make sure you get it ahead of time. Had I thought ahead back in 2004 and had the time and the money, I would have hunted down this and taken it with me to get signed by Alan Dean Foster. I was a newbie at the whole idea of autograph collecting at the time, didn't think about it, so I got some stuff signed and I'm happy with that. But not nearly as excited as I would have been, ecstatic even, to have something like this signed. Now, as for if you ever get something signed by me, just to let you know my personal preferences on doing this sort of thing, since we are talking autograph signing. I'll usually use a small Sharpie. I would love to use something like this because it would just be amusing to say, hey, I signed your book with the thing that has a strip and layout on it. But regular pens don't really work all that well. When it comes to anything that I might sign, you might wind up finding me signing Star Wars Tales, Equals and Opposites comic pack. Usually with these, I'll sign it somewhere up here. It's a nice flat surface. I have had one person ask me to sign it here because they didn't want Tales to be covered up. Basically, if you've got a nice thick Sharpie, you can sign it just about anywhere on here on the front, but it's all the bubble stuff except for the cardboard up at the top. It's all a slick surface, so you got to be using a Sharpie and you got to be really, really careful with it in doing so. If you were ever to pick up one of those Star Wars Action News trading cards from Celebration 5, I usually just sign it right across here, right across my face or underneath my face. Why? Because directly underneath is black, and I usually write it in black so you wouldn't be able to see it. If you're picking up any of those Wars cards that I sign as promotions and that sort of thing, I usually sign it across the game text down here. I usually put GrailQuestBooks.com down there at the bottom because that's where the Wars series stuff is going to be based out of. As for the comics, generally speaking, when it comes to the trade paperback, I've only signed maybe one of these. I signed it on that inside cover there, lots and lots of nice white space there. As for Star Wars Tales, that depends on which of the versions that you have. If you bring me number 21 or send me number 21 as the case may be, I usually sign it on the inside down here by where it has my name, usually not on the cover for some reason. I just usually sign down here because there's multiple stories in here. It's not just me doing this one. In the one where it is just me writing it, which is the one that comes with the comic pack if you've taken it out, there's not really a lot of empty space on which to write inside, so I usually do sign this one somewhere on either side there. It's weird to be thinking about that, but it's all right because it'll just play into that mystique out there that, much like Chrono Relt in What Sin Loyalty, the one that's named after me, who is a bit of an arrogant jerk on the side of the rebellion going up against the Empire, maybe I'm a bit of one as well. You could either make the argument that this has been one in-depth look at how to get Star Wars items signed and what type of options are available out there, or it's been one arrogant show-off just saying, hey, take a look at some cool stuff from my collection. Hopefully, either way, it's been a fun journey through this special visual showcase episode. I hope you're not thinking I'm arrogant showing these things off, but I do think this is something that people are interested in, and definitely something that more people could get into, because a lot of people, I think, stay away from Star Wars autograph collecting. They think it's an unapproachable hobby. Obviously, it's not something that'll ever be truly completed. Some people don't sign autographs. Others have passed away. I would love to have something signed by Brian Daly, but he passed back in the 90s. But it is a field you can get into a lot more easily than people make it out to be. Using eBay, using sellers like StarWarsShop.com, you can get into signed Star Wars EU collecting. You just got to take the time to look into what options are available out there. And hopefully, this has presented some of them to you, in some cases maybe for the first time. In any event, I hope you'll check out Star Wars autograph collecting as a hobby if you haven't already. I'd love to hear about some of your new acquisitions as you get them. Drop us a line on the EU Reviews Facebook page. Let us know what kind of cool stuff you've come by. Until next time, this has been Nathan P. Butler for the EU Review Visual Showcase, signing off.